なの分も作らせてもら
A capsule?
You know what's an underrated aspect of Dragon Ball? It's world building. Dragon Ball's planet Earth is so fascinating to me. From its diverse population of humans and animal people, to its strangely segregated class system, where half the world lives in utopic cities with advanced technology, while the other half lives in feudal, archaic villages, crawling with outlaws and monsters. But among all of Dragon Ball's fascinating world building, one thing stands out from the rest. That, of course, would be the introduction of Hoi Poi capsules. Capsules were introduced in literally the first chapter of the story, where we see that Bulma has 17 capsules on her, each being capable of containing basically anything. In this early portion of the story, we see that Bulma has a car, 2 different motorcycles, a house, a speedboat, and then she loses her entire capsule case in the river. Imagine losing all of that because you did the equivalent of dropping your wallet. But yeah, capsules are indeed an insane bit of technology to exist. They can contain any manner of object, from your dirty magazine collection to this massive plane/mobile garage. I cannot stress enough how insane it is. If someone invented capsules in real life, it would literally be the most revolutionary invention in all of human history. And no, that's not an exaggeration. Imagine the absolute mayhem they would cause in the economy if capsules were invented in our world. Overnight, shipping goods across the globe would become trivial. You know how you have to struggle to find and then pay for a parking spot? How about no one ever has to park anywhere ever, because they take their cars with them? And without the need for parking lots, we could convert all of that land into more building space. Then, if you could transport pocket houses like this, the housing market would crash off a cliff within a few years. Imagine how easy it would be to travel the world if you could just bring your entire house along with you. And we even see an example of this in the story, since Master Roshi moves his entire house from his island to the mainland for Goku and Krillin's training. Man, this would be an absolute nightmare for airport security. Except, would we even need airports anymore? In the Dragon Ball world, it's commonplace for people to carry around their own personal planes. You might think only someone like Bulma would have that, but later in the story, we learn that Master Roshi, someone who we know isn't insanely wealthy, just has a convertible submarine aircraft he uses to go grocery shopping. But keep in mind that regardless of that, airports do exist in Dragon Ball. That might seem a little strange, but that's where the next bit of fascinating world building comes to play. You know how we discussed the Dragon Ball world's strange class divide? Well, that can actually be somewhat explained by capsules. Because later into the story, we learn that Bulma's father, Dr. Briefs, is actually the man who invented capsule technology. And since he's, still alive, it means capsules are actually a somewhat recent invention within their world. You could easily theorize capsules have revolutionized the world, creating the utopic society we see Bulma come from, while the less populated areas are still catching up to modern society. This is best exemplified during the 21st World Tournament, where Nam's entire motivation is to win the prize money to bring prosperity back to his tiny village. Only for Master Roshi to explain that he could just load up some capsules with a massive amount of water and bring it back to his village. The fact that such systems aren't already in place is a clear sign that capsules just haven't been around for a long time. Now, did Toriyama plan any of that? Probably not, but it makes sense and it's fun to think about. As you probably know, Dragon Ball started out as a gag manga, and a pretty common trend within gag mangas is this thing called hammer space, where a character pulls out whatever comical object they need at the time, no matter how nonsensical, and due to the non-serious nature of these stories, no one ever really questions it. So while capsules have all these world-building implications, it also gives an in-world explanation for hammer space, as Bulma will literally use a capsule to pull out a hammer, or like how Launch constantly pulls out her arsenal of guns. The name Hoi Poi capsule itself seemingly comes from the sound they make when they're deployed. The first time we see Bulma use one, she shouts "Hoi," then the capsule makes a poi sound. I'm not sure how accurate this is to the manga, but in the anime when you click the button it makes the "Hoi" sound. And then when the capsule flies through the air it makes the poi sound. But back to the story itself, we learn a bit more upon the arrival of Yamcha, who was originally introduced as a desert bandit. And as one might assume, capsules open up a lot of crime opportunities, since you can just put someone's entire house in your pocket and make a run for it. As Yamcha is robbing Oolong, we learn that Oolong's double-decker camping bus is an M-sized capsule. This has some interesting implications. Something this big is considered a medium-sized capsule? This sort of gives us a decent scale for capsule size and pricing, as Yamcha says an M size is considered pretty expensive for a kid. If I had to guess, expensive for a kid would probably be somewhere between $500 to $2,000, meaning even something this big is relatively cheap compared to a similar product in our world. But then there's the other part of this that we don't know. What is the process for capsuling stuff? Or do you need to have it done for you by Capsule Corp? If I were to guess, I think smaller sized capsules are probably more flexible, letting you put miscellaneous stuff inside them, as we see Bulma's father keep his dirty magazine collection inside one. But most M and L capsules we see have built-in buttons to revert them back to capsules, so you probably have to build the capsule technology into the product. Further proof of this can be seen when Roshi capsules his house, and the capsule itself is labeled house, probably because he bought the house as a capsule in the first place. In addition to that, a lot of capsule products have specific numbers on them. Early on, it kinda seems like Bulma was just labeling her own capsules to remember which one was which, but later into the story, it seems like it became a classification number, like how Trunks' fridge was capsule 2031, or how Goku's car in the Cell Saga is capsule 43, probably implying capsule 43 is a mass-produced car sold by Capsule Corp. The other thing I'm curious about though, is if Bulma's motorcycle is an M or S capsule. We actually see a lot of relatively small vehicles in Dragon Ball, like Yamcha gives them a little buggy car he had. If I had to guess, I bet you can fit some of these smaller vehicles inside S capsules, but a proper sized vehicle probably jumps you up to an M category. So if you can fit something like a tiny car in an S capsule, then there's probably also an extra small size for miscellaneous objects. But actually, maybe not. When Roshi gives Nam an empty capsule to put water in, we can see that it's an S capsule. This both implies S capsules are flexible and you can put whatever you want in them, while also implying that even S capsules can still hold pretty big stuff, since we can assume Nam would want to bring a lot of water with him. Another large object we see Bulma pull out of what we can assume was an S capsule is her storage case that held the Saiyan battle armor she made for the time chamber training, since it lacks the Capsule Corp marketing. We do see a close-up of that capsule too, but it seemingly just has scribbles on the label. Now, this is the only thing I'll mention outside of the original manga, but in Jaco the Galactic Patrolman, we see one of Dragon Ball's weird ball towers with the capsule branding. This is likely a retcon, as I'm pretty sure these never had the Capsule Corp branding in the original manga. But I actually think this could also be a really cool bit of world building. As you know, you just click and throw and boy, the capsule turns into a thing. But you need space in order to throw out your capsule. With that in mind, these ball towers make a lot of sense to be capsules, because you could throw them out with relatively small ground space, having most of the house up in the air. This also makes me think about how dangerous capsules are, since you'd think throwing a capsule at someone and having a house spawn on them could straight up kill a man. Well, I don't think something like that would actually make it to the commercial market. I think it makes a lot more sense to assume that capsules have a built-in radar, only opening if they have adequate unoccupied space. Ha! I finally got him! We surpassed Transformed Zarbon. Alright, who's next? Vegeta, I thought I already beat you.
Looks like you have some required reading to do.
Alright, let's see here. Okay, full moon, lose your tiles, stronger every time you... Oh.
I guess our next goal will be reaching the big 30k. Now, while it's worth mentioning Bulma was always portrayed as an inventor and clearly wealthy, we didn't actually establish her as the daughter of Capsule Corp's president until midway into the Red Ribbon Army saga. But in that section, we see something else I want to discuss. We see that Bulma invented a shrinking bracelet. Now, while Toriyama probably didn't actually intend for this, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say this is an application of capsule technology. If I had to guess, there's probably ethical implications of shrinking actual people, so commercial capsules probably lack the ability to shrink living beings. That being said, it's not like they can't hold organic matter, as we see them put the corpses of Master Roshi, Krillin, and Chaozu in capsule coffins later in the story. So I think it stands to reason you could actually make capsules that can hold people, even if they don't exist on the legal market. Speaking of which, there does seem to be an illegal bootleg capsule market, as both the Peel-Off Gang and the Red Ribbon Army also use capsules, but unlike basically every capsule machine we see that says Capsule Corp and its number on the side, all of the Red Ribbon stuff just has a Red Ribbon logo on it. You might say that this just proves that you can put whatever you want in larger capsules, but I think it's just as likely that there's an underground illegal capsule market. Another thing I gotta mention in here somewhere is how capsules originally come from a previous manga Toriyama made before Dragon Ball, called The Adventures of Tung Pu, where the titular main character uses capsules. But in that story, you have to boil the capsules to open them. Very interestingly, we get a bizarro reverse version of the scene with Bulma taking Goku into her capsule house. It's genuinely a very similar scene, but with the roles reversed. It definitely feels like Toriyama wanted to take a second crack at this scene when he was writing Dragon Ball. And another fun fact is the iconic Capsule Corp circle logo actually doesn't appear all the way until Dragon Ball Z. Before that, it was this capsule with a K on it. Now, I wouldn't say this is a bad thing, but Dragon Ball eventually leans a lot more into mystical martial arts than technology. And even when it does eventually focus more on tech, it's in the context of alien worlds. Due to that, capsules somewhat fade into the background. They're still around, like how Bulma puts up a house in a cave on Namek, or Trunks capsules his time machine, but largely they get less attention later into the story. But you know, capsules are just really cool, and having something like that just be an established casual background element makes the world building of Dragon Ball feel so real. It's the little stuff like this that makes the setting feel like a genuine place that could exist. Yeah, just a really cool Dragon Ball thing. A+ writing. And on that, I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time.